Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla TV, here to talk to you today about Crusher exhaust for Harley Touring. Pretty simply, you should be looking into a Crusher exhaust for your touring rig if you want something that's going to sound awesome and look a lot different than some of the other exhaust components out there on the market today. Crusher's currently making these for dressers 95 and up, so just about everything late model should have some fitment, and really when you think about it, 95 is pretty far back. Use our bike finder, throw your bike in there, we're going to show you the stuff that fits your bike exactly, get you the right part numbers first time every time. Installation on these isn't too bad. You're probably looking at a 1-bearder for all of these mufflers you see in front of me, and then as we talk later about the head pipes and some of the other accessories, you might bump up into the 2-beard range depending on exactly what it is you're doing. Let's get right into things. So those of you who aren't familiar with the name Crusher probably are familiar with the name Kuryakyn. Crusher is Kuryakyn's performance division. Their catchphrase, their tagline, is defining style within performance. And the nice part about that is that they really kind of live up to that. They're making exhaust pieces that really do perform in your bike, and not just in terms of horsepower, but in terms of quality and construction too. You can rest assured anything you see up here really is going to outperform your factory mufflers. Yes, in terms of horsepower, but mostly in terms of longevity, how long they're going to be on the bike, how long they're going to be looking good, and also in sound. These things sound fantastic. Give a listen to one of these puppies. Mellow, muted, but not too bad. Like, these things are really, really decent. So I love the way Crusher organizes their exhaust. A lot of exhaust companies will make just all sorts of stuff hither and yon for bikes, and it doesn't seem to make a whole bunch of sense. I think Kuryakyn really understands the touring market. It seems that every bike I see out there, it's a touring rig, really is not making huge horsepower. They're reasonably stock machines, and they should be. They're meant to cover big miles. People don't want to modify them way far from stock. So what that means is exhausts tend to be really focused on looking good and sounding good. So what Crusher has done is really based their entire exhaust lineup around the mufflers. They're a muffler-centric exhaust company. That's really a step out of the box, I think. Most places really concentrate on the head pipes, and that's great for making horsepower, but again, those of you on baggers really aren't racers. You guys aren't always considering horsepower as a top priority. So I want to run you through what you're looking at up here, because we really do have a very huge array of stuff here. Crusher makes a lot of cool stuff. Let's zip through it real fast, so if you see something you like, you'll know exactly what product page you want to head to. So you can see over here on the end, we've got a Trident muffler, so named because of the 3-cornered design inside the end of the tip. Moving down the line here, you can see we've got a set of Slipstreams. These are also on the Street Glide behind me. You can see black end caps here. We've got a set of chrome end caps on the Street Glide. It looks like factory, but just a little different. There's something that catches your eye about it, but it doesn't look garish or gross. So you can also see here too, we have the Maverick Exhaust. I think these things are super cool. You can see it in chrome here. We've also got a black version down here. This is actually similar to their full systems for the smaller bikes. They have this cool crenellated tip here, and you can also see there's this stainless nameplate. Really jumps out, kind of a classy looking exhaust. You can see this thing peeking out from under the bags, but again, it's not drawing a bunch of attention to itself, but does let people know that you have a bike that's a little bit different than a factory rig. So moving over here, you can see the Mad Stacks in front of me. The Mad Stacks, in my book, wins the award for dumbest name for a muffler. I can't stand the name of this thing, but it is a cool looking muffler, especially for those of you who don't like the round look. Moving over here too, you can see we have a set of Slipstream mufflers like we have on the Street Glide behind us, but they have their slash tips installed in these. Lends the muffler really a whole different look, and it also is pretty conservative. This looks like your average slash cut muffler, but again, you can tell here because this thing rides over the body of this, it's got a little bit more fullness to it. It doesn't look like cheapo stamped sheet steel. It actually looks like a really nice pipe, and it is a nice pipe. So we talked about sound. These things are great. They really do, they make your bike sound better. They're throaty, they're rumbly, but they're not overwhelming. A lot of times on a touring bike, I know I can't stand getting on one that has like a full exhaust or drag pipes. They're just so loud, mile after mile after mile, and you don't have to worry about that with a Crusher exhaust. These things are engineered to sound great, but they're not overwhelming. It's the sort of rumble that's pleasing. It doesn't start grating on you after a whole bunch of miles. I think that's pretty important. So as I said, these guys are definitely muffler-centric, but for those of you who want an all Crusher exhaust, we've got a couple surprises in store for you. Let's take a peek. Alrighty, and now we're at the fun stuff, accessories for your Crusher exhaust. Now I'd mentioned Crusher being a little bit different in that they're a muffler-centric exhaust. However, they don't leave you performance guys out in the cold. You can see over here, we do have a set of their PowerCell head pipes. So these things are great because they are going to give you that extra bump of power. For those of you who do tweak out your bagger a little bit, you've got some cams, maybe you got some head work done, you've got something that's significantly different than stock, these head pipes are going to help you take advantage of some of those power adders you have put on your bike, and will also let you retain an all crusher exhaust if you want that stem to stern. So the secret for the power in these babies lies right here in the PowerCell. So you can see we remove these heat shields, and the heat shields really are super heavy duty. You can't really see them too well here, but this is a nice heavy heat shield, gives you a good air gap on the pipes, keeps your pipes looking clean. But the really cool part here is what they're covering is the PowerCell itself. And realistically, those of you looking at this can see this is an X pipe. And for those of you who are not super well versed in exhaust, X pipes allow both the cylinders to sort of help each other work through a phenomenon known as scavenging. And what scavenging means is that as exhaust gas is moving through one of these pipes, what that actually does is, since it's linked to the other pipe, it actually helps fill the incoming cylinder with fuel and air. It actually helps kind of suck that into the cylinder. So really it allows more fuel, more air into each cylinder with every stroke of the engine. And what that really does mean is that you wind up making more power. Effectively, your engine's a giant air pump. The more air and fuel you can throw into it, the more horsepower you're going to make. It's a very simple equation. So moving over here, you can see we have a set of Mellow Baffles. So for those of you who really do like the look of a crusher exhaust, but you want something ultra mellow, you're doing real long miles, maybe you have sensitive hearing, and you really just want your bike to be quiet. Maybe you're just ultra considerate of your neighbors, or perhaps you just don't want your hearing destroyed in the long run. You can slide in a set of Mellow Baffles to your existing exhaust. What you're going to wind up doing is removing your end cap, sliding out the existing baffles, putting these puppies in there, locking them in with the 2 bolts, and putting your end cap back on. It's a very simple process. And at the end of things, what you have is an exhaust that still has a nice mellow authoritative tone, but it's not going to be quite so loud. There's not going to be so much crack when you get on the throttle. One of the things I really did like about these is the way you see these is actually how we got them. Crusher sends these things out already wrapped with your packing material and wire too. So really all you need to do is slide this thing in there. Those of you who have ever gotten itchy from fiberglass or wind up picking bits of steel wool out of yourself, you don't have to do these. Throw a set of gloves on, put them on, you're ready to rock and roll. So moving into the installation portion of things, I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, you're looking probably at 1 beard for most of you who are doing a mufflers only system, and those of you who are going to use the PowerCell head pipes, you're probably going to bump into the 2 beard arena. Let's go through that real quickly. Mufflers really are a quick install for most folks on a dresser. You're going to pop your bags off. Once you get the bags off of there, unbolting your factory or existing aftermarket mufflers is not difficult at all. You're going to release a clamp. You've got 2 bolts holding them in, typically to your saddlebag rail. Slide those things off. The new ones go on just as easily. Lock everything in. I can usually do a set in our studio here in about 20 to 25 minutes. So those of you who maybe are even all thumbs should be able to get this done well under an hour. You should be cruising down the road listening to the purr of your sweet new crusher exhaust. Now those of you guys who are going to run the PowerCell head pipes, you got a little more homework to do. Firstly, there's physically a little more pipe to replace. You've got to get your headers actually down off of the motorcycle. You do have some heat shields to install, and you are going to have to potentially contend with oxygen sensors. None of this is difficult, but it does add a little bit of time and wrenching to the installation process, but you should not be afraid of it. Even if it's your first time, should be something that most of you should find reasonably straightforward. Plus, crusher's directions included in there are pretty darn good. So once you're done installing that, though, keep in mind too, because Harley's already run really, really lean, especially if you're going to run an aftermarket air cleaner, you're definitely going to want to retune. Even if you do wind up with the stock factory football or ham can on the side of your bike, retuning is going to be a necessary evil with a full exhaust. I mean, realistically, you're putting these on your bike because you do want to make big power. Again, we had talked about possibly having cams, headwork, maybe some other hot rod power adders. There's not really much point in adding another power adder in this exhaust and not throwing the appropriate fuel at it. Remember, all these components are going to work together with each other in order to get you a sweet running bike with a little bit of oomph when you get on the go button. That's something to think about. I really like what Crusher has done with this exhaust system. I love the idea of a mufflers first system. Reason being because the bags cover so much of the exhaust, a lot of times the tips are really all you can see. So the mufflers are kind of the focal point, both in an audio sense and also visually for baggers. So the fact that they're working from the mufflers up the bike, I think is really kind of a different way to look at an exhaust. My opinion is not the only one that matters though. Click below, check out what some riders who are already rocking PowerCell or perhaps Crusher mufflers on their bike have to say about it. If you've got questions I didn't cover for you, get in touch with one of our gear geeks. 877-792-9455 get you geek on the horn. You can always drop us an email too. cs@revzilla.com. I'm Lemmy. I'm out of here.